Hi everybody, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, passengers were aboard the Carnival Elation and they were informed that their disembarkation would be late by about 3 hours, and passengers getting ready to get on board the ship were told, yeah, don't come until 3 hours later than you're supposed to be. And they were, of course, very upset with this and complaining, are going to miss our flights, until they heard the tragic reason why the cruise ship was delayed. We'll talk about that. We have two different cruise lines canceling cruises basically almost out of nowhere for two completely different reasons. And then we have, well, you guessed it, another outbreak on a very traditional, historic cruise ship. So while returning to port, the Carnival Elation going into Jacksonville was delayed getting back by 3 hours, and notices went out to passengers who were supposed to be boarding in the morning that they, please don't come to the cruise port. They won't be able to get on board. It's 3 hour delay. And some people on social media immediately went out and started saying, what's going on? Is something wrong with the ship, etc. So to be clear, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the ship. There's nothing wrong with the cruise port. This was an issue by the Coast Guard because at 8 p.m. the previous night, an 18-foot passenger vessel was overturned. And the calls went out that there were people in, an accident and people were in the water. When the Coast Guard showed up, there were 4 people clinging to the boat in the water. And they were told immediately that there were also 4 others missing, 2 adults and 2 children. The search went out for, they started combing the area. It was, of course, evening now, nighttime. They also had other vessels showed up to try and help in the search to see if they could find anything. Unfortunately, because the whole area was closed off, this is what was delaying the cruise ship. And tragically, 1 adult was found deceased near the boat. And unfortunately, as of now, the search has been called off for the other 3 passengers, including the 2 children. They also issued a statement saying that when they showed up, that none of the passengers on board had life jackets on. It's just, yeah, it's one of those stories that you just hate to hear, you hate to see, and of course, people immediately on social media were going very concerned for the families and everything on board the cruise ship once they heard the reason why the cruise ship was going to be delayed. And that puts things into perspective. Being late for a flight, having the inconvenience of getting on your ship later, pales in comparison to the tragedy that was going on near the cruise terminal that day. So condolences and everything to go out to friends and family of all those involved in that tragic accident in Florida. Next, let's talk about 2 cruise ships. The new Staten Dam just had a 29-day voyage transatlantic sailing canceled for next year, along with the 15-day portion of that voyage. Now, this is one of those cruises it's going to Norway for the Northern Lights, and then it's doing a historic journey to different parts of France and England, etc. And now it's been canceled. And people were speculating the reasons why. Could it be they chartered the ship? Could it be possibly now that this is going in for dry dock? It is around the 3-year mark since it was last in for dry dock, and all cruise ships must go in for a dry dock for basic maintenance every 3 to 5 years. And so it's right around that timeline. And while it's in Europe, why not get that dry dock done? The other thing is the sailings after that are kind of missing. The October sailings and November sailings aren't there anymore for that ship until the December sailing in the Caribbean. So people are speculating now that the reason they canceled it is because it's going into dry dock. Now, what did they offer for compensation for canceling this? Well, you get a $50 onboard credit on your next booking per passenger. So not, a 29-day sailing is not cheap. And so $50, yeah. What are the odds of you being able to find another 20 to 30 day sailing transatlantic at that time doing the same type of itinerary? It might be a little harder to find and a little harder to come by, but that's one cruise ship that canceled. Now, we also have the Carnival Miracle, and it was just recently canceled in favor of a full ship charter. So they canceled everybody's cruise for that sailing next year, and now they've chartered it. But they are offering everybody, if you move it over before April 3rd, which is just a few days away, you know, a couple weeks, you can move it over and you will get a $100 move over offer per stateroom, not per passenger, per stateroom. And your sailing price for a similar category on a similar itinerary or sailing like a 7-day for a 7-day, you will have your price protected, which is not bad in considering that, you know, prices keep going up and up and up. But again, you only have till next week to make that decision and change it over. Otherwise, it will be refunded automatically back to your credit card or form of payment that you used. The one thing that I'm curious about is anyone ever going to challenge this in court? Because we know they have written in their contracts that they can cancel it for almost any reason. You know, weather, they can change ports, they can, you know, they have to go into dry dock. They decided the cruise ship isn't going to sail in Europe and now it's going to sail in the Caribbean, so they're canceling all the European. There's numerous reasons they can cancel. But I don't know if it's technically legal for them to sail, to cancel a cruising to sail to somebody else. Like, you've signed a contract, you paid for something, and they're canceling it to sell that item to somebody else. If I sell my house to somebody, I can't cancel the sale of that house because somebody else offers me more money once I've sold the house. So is it technically legal that cruise lines can do this as well? I'm curious to see one day in the future if somebody will get together and launch a class action suit against canceling sailings for full charters. It'd be an interesting lawsuit. It really would, because can you actually sell something after it's already sold? I don't have the money to test that theory, but maybe someday somebody will give that one a shot. And finally, the Queen Mary II. She's on a longer journey as well from Southampton over to the Caribbean. Well, once she stops in Bermuda, she's gone in for a deep cleaning because there's a gastronomical outbreak. Norovirus is on board. It's a longer sailing, which means it's much harder to contain because there's no refresh of passengers. There's no new passengers getting on and off. So infected passengers get off the ship, they do a cleaning, and new passengers come on. It makes it much easier to contain. But when everyone's there for a long period of time, mingling and going around, it's harder to control. So they've issued a deep cleaning asking everybody when they're in Bermuda to get out of their staterooms so they can clean all the staterooms. However, there are some people that won't be leaving their staterooms, and those are the people that have already come down with the norovirus. They are being asked to isolate in their cabins until they're feeling better. And yeah, it's just, again, one of those situations that makes 5 in January, 4 in February, and so far 4 in March, outbreaks of norovirus on cruise ships. That's a lot, folks. That's a lot. Just got to warn everybody one more time, washing your hands, especially in the buffet area, certainly helps. I just came off the Sun Princess, and I would say 1 out of every 40 people might have been washing their hands. Now, the difference on the Sun Princess is they serve you the food in the buffet, so there's not as much cross-contamination there. You can get away with it a lot better than if you're a free-for-all in the buffets. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think somebody one day will ever challenge that cancellation because they've sold your cabin to somebody else? I wonder if that's actually a legal precedent that might be set sometime in the future. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.